Okay, a little graphical depiction of the situation. We have a little graph. The vertical axis is pleasure versus displeasure, right? With the time axis right at the point where you're neutral. Okay. And then there's a time axis, and then the line is your life charted in terms of pleasure and displeasure of an individual. So my point with this is what I was trying to say here is that when you're talking about life being a zero-sum game, it's basically because when you're born or conceived, you're at a 0 point and your brain starts up, let's say. I mean, don't get too hung up with that. And when you die, it's over there and it's zero there. So it's zero when you start or right before you start, and it's zero when you end. So that's the sense in which, it doesn't make any difference. But the point is the area under the curve. So here we see he, gets pleasure, and then has this period of displeasure, and then another period of pleasure, a sharp decline, and some displeasure, and then back up to a period of pleasure. And the green areas are where he was enjoying life, and the red areas are where he wasn't. Okay, so the total area can sum total positive if it's just graphed like this. So the question, though, is, does it have to balance out? Well, I think for an individual, at least in Mendham and I are agreeing that no, it can be positive. The positive doesn't add up because it doesn't take away the other suffering of other people. However, it does take away your own suffering. If you get no pleasure and just a bunch of little suffering, you won't want to praise or endure that suffering or say how it was necessary. But if overall you have a pleasurable time and you have a little bit of suffering, for an individual, I think that can work. So I also think we're getting to a fundamental issue about how pleasure does excuse displeasure for an individual, but one individual's pleasure doesn't excuse the displeasure of another. Now I'm just talking about pleasure and displeasure here because I want to keep it on that basis. These will map, I think, well enough to material suffering, but that's going to be difficult, right? Because there are pleasures that could cause material suffering. And there's really confusing things like poisons, which might cause no suffering, but then you die, and we have to bring in the survival motivation. And I will say one thing about the survival motivation. Every time I said that it's about survival, people assume, that I'm saying survival is a good thing, like some analog of life is precious. No, I'm just saying that to have a social philosophy, that we share with other people so we can agree on something and hopefully disagree on some things as well, you need to find what you have in common with other people. And the fact of the matter is, we each are interested in our own survival, so we can grant that in each other. There's exceptions to that rule, and fine. So it's a confederation of those that believe in survival. It's a pretty big confederation. And then morally, that means we respect the fact that others want to survive. And similarly, or even inductively, we get into the quality of life, and that we want a quality of life, a decent quality of life. And so again, we grant that to others, that they also want that. And so we have a mutual principle that we can work from and say, well, here's some things that'll help us all survive together. Here's ways we can get pleasure that don't cause material misery to others. Okay.